student-led virtual summit this week. We're really excited to bring you this session about writing in AI in writing. But first, we're going to start off with a little bit about what Students for Innovation is. So Soham, do you want to start with that?
Students for Innovation is an initiative focused on advocating for educational change in the classroom through student-led focused innovation trainings, presentations, resources, and a lot of other support. Throughout Students for Innovation in the last year and a half, we've worked tirelessly to work with students on a local, state, and national level to help advocate for real change, specifically involving AI, but we use the phrase innovation for all categories of learning.
And for this summit, we do want to take a moment to thank School AI because they've been supporting us throughout our journey, and they are sponsoring us to actually go to ISTE, the conference in June, to present there. So thank you to School AI. And also, we want to extend a thank you to Alana Winnick for all her support along the way and for giving students like us a platform to share our voice and be heard. So with that, I'm going to start our presentation on rethinking the writing process with AI. And this is a special presentation because it's a little bit more of a workshop style. So we'll have a few questions for you to, maybe pause and think about along the way if you're watching the recording. So let's get started. My name is Amia, and I'm a 10th grader in New Jersey.
I'm Soham, and I'm a senior in North New Jersey.
So, what we want to do today is first have you try new tools based off of the information that we're going to be providing and the different resources that we'll be providing you, as well as rethinking the writing process. What are the steps of it and how to incorporate this into lessons? And then we also want to have you share and reflect with each other and improve the classroom experience for everybody. So, our first question that you can pause and think about is what's one word that comes to mind when you hear the phrase the writing process? Um, so, Soham, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can answer it for myself. I think when I hear the phrase writing process, a lot of different words come to mind. I think of school, I think of academics, but in the context of AI, one thing I hear a lot, I think a lot of people in the audience would think about, is the phrase cheating would come up a lot. A lot of people may assume AI is used for cheating. And today we're going to dive deeper into how AI may actually augment the human writing process instead of actually negating the human writing process.
Exactly. And before we move on, I just want to add to that and answer for myself as well. And I think that if there's just one word that has to encompass the entire writing process, I would actually pick the word thinking because I think that especially with the advent of AI today, we are realizing that the whole idea of writing and the process of writing is becoming more and more about thinking because that's what we humans are great at and that's what we should be doing and encouraging the most. And so now let's start with what the problem really is. Well, in today's world, we have the traditional curriculum and the traditional learning method. And the problem with this is it doesn't allow students to really incorporate that thinking and improve their creativity while they're writing. The idea of these rubrics with checkboxes and the formulaic essay that gives students a template that they almost just fill in the blanks within their new information doesn't allow students to really think when they're writing and think about what their approach should be to a new writing piece or something else they're researching. And so now let's go to the topic of AI. So, why students use AI could be to save time and reduce their stress because they might have a lot going on in their life and not enough time to finish everything, but also maybe to sound smarter and get better grades on assignments. And so, why this could backfire is it could make students lose their voice, their personal voice in their writing because they're making AI do the writing for them, lose ideas because they're not really thinking through things and lose trust. So now we need to think about what we can do as educators to improve the classroom environment and incorporate AI in a way that doesn't cause these problems and incorporate AI in a way that actually enhances thinking. So, our next question for you is what writing habits are we unintentionally rewarding in schools? Soham, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, of course. So I think we're encouraging a bit of a completionist mindset where everyone's just trying to complete their assignment and get a good grade. And every attempt at writing is not about thinking and learning, but is instead about how do I get a great grade? And how do I complete the assignment? How do I do it as fast as possible? There's a culture of efficiency and optimization, and that isn't always the best way to learn how to think.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I feel like even with me and my experiences, it's always kind of about that product in what I'm doing, whether it's a writing assignment or any other assignment. It's all about turning that final product in, and I feel like that doesn't help me grow as much as the process of my ideas and improving my creativity could. And I really think that that's something we should think about when we're changing how the education system in with writing works. So now what is our solution to this problem? What are we going to bring to you? So our writing process involves thinking coming first. So our basic writing process goes from brainstorming to selecting an idea, and then planning and drafting and revising and editing and publishing. But the most important part of this writing process is that it's an iterative process. It's not a linear process. You don't go from one step to the other until you get to your product. You, along the way, may go to the revising step and then completely realize that you want to change your entire essay topic or entire writing topic and go back to the second step or the first step, even. And this is what creates the culture where we want to embrace the process and being able to go back and forth between these steps and not just focus on reaching that final product. So now we want to introduce a few tools to you as an educator to try out, so that we can improve what your classroom looks like for your students and improve the student experience. So, the writing prompt that we thought about that involves not only just writing, but writing about something personal, something that involves your own experiences, is write about a time that your perspective changed. So, this could be something, an experience in your life that was really like changed your mind on something, or somebody that you met that gave you advice, anything like that. So just take a minute to think about these ideas as we continue through the presentation. So what we want you to do now is head to the QR codes that we have up here. You can pick either brainstorming or revising based off of what type of writing piece you want to work with. And so, with this prompt that we just talked about, uh, take the space and try to use it to generate topic ideas about the prompt. And so, how this space works is it's using the tool School AI, and it involves a pre programmed activity that is geared towards just the brainstorming process or just the revising process. And it won't let the student gravitate off of that final goal of getting to the brainstorming process or getting through to get to that final product of what they want in that step of the writing process. And what's important is teachers can customize these brainstorming or revising spaces before the assignment is released. So then students can use that exact space to work with the assignment that they're completing. So take a minute and try a few of these spaces and then let us know what you think. So next, now that we've tried some of these spaces and learned a little bit about School I also want to mention what School AI certification is. So I talked about creating your own spaces, and so School AI provides a course to learn how to, as an educator, create your own spaces to be able to use them effectively in the classroom. And so there's a level 1 and level 2 certification course that allows you to learn more about what it takes to create a space that properly creates what you want your student to accomplish with that specific task. And it's very helpful, and I would definitely recommend it as to try it out as an educator. So next, we're going to move on to the discussion part of our presentation. So what becomes the role of a teacher now that AI is involved in the writing process? Well, first of all, like Soham and I talked about earlier, we need to focus on the idea of process over just that final product and that mindset of getting to the end and completing an assignment. We need to focus on the writing process and going through each step and going back and forth, which is and learn that that's okay to go back and forth between different steps in the writing process and finally result in a product, but the product itself is not too important. And then we also need to realize that rather than just creating a grade driven environment and trying to get an A on every assignment, educators should provide feedback throughout the process. And the feedback should be what helps the student improve and get better on their own. And then finally, rather than banning AI and banning uh, using new technologies, we need to focus on teaching students how to use it and guiding students to use it in regular assignments that we're doing in the classroom. Because if students don't learn how to use AI in writing as a middle schooler or high schooler, then once they go into the real world and they're able to have full access to AI, they're not going to know how to properly and responsibly use it to guarantee them the success that they should have with using AI. And so now, after we've tried using the spaces and tried using AI to help the brainstorming and revising process, take a minute and think about what surprised you with using AI to help you brainstorm or revise, and what felt useful or what felt wrong. Um, Soham, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think in general, I'm gonna answer this generally because this will be recorded. Um, but I think when you use AI or for any kind of assignment or when you write personally, there are always gonna be small pieces that feel a little bit different or not in your own personal voice. I think structurally it's helpful to see examples, but what ends up happening, what can feel wrong is when you start changing a sentence to two sentences to three to four until the entire essay is not your own work. But at the same time, um, turning like your unstructured thoughts into structured support is very, very useful. And I feel that in this example, that's what I would have done. I would have jotted down my initial thoughts, my initial gut reactions, and basically chatted with an LLM as like as a peer mentor or a peer writer to give me feedback on my initial brainstorming and initial thoughts. And that's super helpful for writing process.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the steps in the writing process and using AI to help me come up with my ideas and make them even better as I'm going through the writing process really helps me as well. And so now, as an educator, I want to think a little bit about how to fit AI into a writing unit. So let's take the example of a persuasive essay. So if that is the writing unit that you have upcoming, how could we use AI throughout this process? Well, first of all, let's think about what the steps are in a persuasive essay. So, first, there's picking the topic. So, that's the brainstorming, and the student can use AI to help them pick a topic that interests them the most to write a persuasive essay on, something they're passionate about. And once they pick that idea and come up with that idea, they can use AI to flush out the problems or the and figure out the best possible way to create that prompt that they would use write their persuasive essay on. And then once they select their idea, they need to do research to write that essay. So using AI and different tools to help them with their research can be very effective as well. And so, like that, AI can be incorporated not just in the final product of a writing or a piece or a unit, but throughout every single step in the writing process. And so, similarly, think about what other units AI can be incorporated into. Soham, do you have another unit in mind?
Yeah, I do. I do. Um, I think one great example and use case is if you're trying to teach what not to do and a negative kind of style, you can generate perfectly tailored essays that have a fatal flaw per se. Like where you'll have an essay that is extremely bad at transitions, for example. And you can have students dissect the essay, or you can take an already good essay from a previous student from a previous year and then make that essay have a really bad transition, right? And you can make it different for every single student. So every student can have a personalized assignment where they have to identify what a problem with an essay could be or what a stylistic choice someone else made could be, and that could lead to very, very interesting, specific, focused, tailored assignments. And that is only really possible with large language models. So what I will say is AI can be definitely very helpful on the teacher side in creating writing assignments for more thinking.
So, what do we want you as an educator to take away from this presentation? Well, as a student, what students like Soham and I and many of our peers believe is that we want the chance to experiment with AI in schools to help us learn to use AI as we're a student, rather than pushing it off and teaching us how to use it later in towards the end of high school. We want to start off earlier in middle school or even elementary school. Students can slowly be taught AI as they're getting older and older. Because AI isn't just about starting to just go in and using AI for everything. It's about learning how to use it in the right way. And even with the writing process, learning how to use it in each individual step in a way that doesn't hurt our creativity by just putting in a prompt and getting out an entire essay and turning that in as the final product, but rather help every single step of that process and help us think more and think more about what we really want from each step of the writing process to what we want that step to do to our final product, and think about it and go back and forth throughout the process. That's what we want to use AI for. So we want you as an educator to teach us how to use AI and to think with AI, and not just how to use it, but how to create our own ideas and improve our own creativity using AI. And so, with that, we also want to talk about how, as an educator, we really encourage you to be open with your students about using AI in the classroom. We've created a few conversation starters that are on our website that you can use to start the conversation with your students and make it seem like you're more open about the use of AI policy. Because many times, I know Soham will agree with me, but many times I've had teachers who don't even mention AI at the beginning of the school year or any time throughout the school year. And every student is left confused on whether they can use AI or whether they can't. And they have no idea how much AI they're allowed to use and where to draw that line. So, rather, if a teacher is able to talk to their students throughout the year after in every single assignment and explain what their guidelines are for how much AI should be used and how it should be used, it'll really help the student both know that what they're doing is okay and also help them use AI in the way that we want them to benefit them. And so, Soham and I picked this quote: AI is a tool, thinking is the craft, because AI isn't replacing humans. AI isn't thinking for us. The whole point of using AI is to help us think, and that's what we are special. That's why humans are different, and AI is not going to replace humans because AI is the tool that helps us. Just like when a calculator can help us with math, AI is a tool that can help us with almost every industry and every subject that we can think of.
And I do want to make, oh, I want to add to that as well. There's a really great paradigm that people come back to from, uh, I think it's Phaedrus, Plato's Phaedrus, which is that like Socrates was originally afraid of writing because writing can distort man and like distort speech. And there's always been a fear of new tools and a fear of new developments from like the beginning of human civilization. So it's very important that we think about technology as a new tool to be used in a positive way and uh, keep our thinking at the forefront of use whenever we're in contact with a large language model. And I think, and the way to do that is using AI to expand human intelligence, not really to replace it. And that is one piece that we're very excited about moving to the future.
Exactly. And so with that, we want to open it up for any questions um, in the chat, or you can also email us. We'll have our email and website later in the presentation. So we also want to say thank you to School AI once again for their support. And I personally want to thank Miss Winnick because she's put in so much effort throughout the process of us starting Students for Innovation and continuing to support us throughout. So do you want to thank anybody?
Yeah, once for me is also Miss Alana Winnick and really Mia as well for being an amazing co-presenter. I have not always been the most on time, but it's been amazing for Mia to help me stay focused and stay on schedule. So props to her.
I just saw a question in the chat from Trevor. How do you talk to your peers about using AI in an effective way? Soham, do you want to answer that first? And
Yeah, so this was a question we answered in our Sunday presentation. This presentation was more so about an actual framework for AI in writing. But the phrasing you have to use when explaining AI guidelines in the classroom is not to have a ban on AI or not to have a full clear use of AI everywhere. You need to have assessment by assessment policy or assessment by assessment guidelines where every single assignment or every single use case is clearly understood by both teachers and students, and there is clear communication between students and between teachers about technology. And if that is the case, then a teacher has the right to make any choices about how they want AI to be used in their classroom, but then they must communicate specifically what those standards may be. For example, like a student should be able to use Grammarly, but then cannot use ChatGPT. A student can get peer tutoring, can use ChatGPT. Like it is very much up to the teacher to communicate clear, straightforward standards to students, and that is the way to incentivize sorry stop a larger problem of cheating in the classroom is clear communication and assessment by assessment guidelines.
and to add on to that a little bit, I know the question mentioned talking to our peers. So just to give an example, I think what I've done in the past is I've kind of mentioned using AI in my work to a lot of my friends, and then had discussions with them about how they've been using it, and then we talk about the different ways we've used it. And if somebody's like putting in a prompt and getting out an entire essay, we talk about what the problems with that are, and instead what we should do to use AI to help us grow as thinkers and writers. So any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But I'm going to continue with what our plan is for the future. So here at Students for Innovation, we have our week-long summit this week, but we're also planning to hold a similar summit next year. And we actually have our request for proposals for that summit open. So if you're an educator who knows a student who, like us, is very passionate about a cause, it doesn't have to be about AI, about anything that adds innovation to the classroom and makes change in the classroom. The RFPs are open. So have them go to our website and fill out the student proposal for presenting, possibly presenting in our summit next year. And in addition to that, we also have the opportunity for students and educators to start a chapter of Students for Innovation at their own schools. And this is an amazing opportunity because one, the student and educator will get to have the support of our leadership team here at all times. So we'll be able to help you in all your work that you're trying to do at your own schools. But what's really important with starting your own chapter is that you'll be able to see the impact that you have and the changes that you're making on your own community, because the changes will happen in your own schools, and that's really powerful to see. So as a student, aside from starting a chapter, you can also apply to join the leadership team and present at conferences and do talks with us. So there's an application for that on our website. And as an educator, if you know any students who would be interested in this or who would be enthusiastic, definitely recommend these students by the form or send us their contact info. And then I also want to shout out, like I mentioned before, School AI is sponsoring me to go to ISTE later this year in June. And so I'm going to be hosting a talk on AI in writing then as well. So if you're going to be at ISTE, definitely I would really appreciate if you came to my session. And I'm really excited for that opportunity. So thank you once again to School AI. And then finally, I just want to bring back up the schedule for the rest of this week. We have a few amazing presentations left. So tomorrow, we're going to be having a presentation on the importance of teaching girls to code at a young age by a 12th grader in Indiana. And then on Saturday, we're really excited to have Namya present for us all the way from India. And she's presenting on building game-based learning in the classroom, which is very exciting and a very important topic for education and adding more innovation to education. And so with that, thank you so much for listening to our presentation. You can reach us at this email and definitely check out our website. And we hope to see you at our presentations in the next few days for the rest of our summit this week.